The early morning on the Wyoming mountains carried a breathtakingly majestic beauty. The first rays of sunrise broke through the dense pine forest, casting shimmering beams of light that danced across the forest floor. Blanketed in dry pine needles, the air was crisp and fresh, carrying the earthy scent of damp mountain soil and foliage. The melodic chirping of birds from the high canopies intertwined with the gentle babbling of a nearby stream, creating a natural symphony welcoming the new day. Jack Reynolds, a passionate wildlife photographer, immersed himself in the rhythm of this serene wilderness. In his hands, his camera was always ready to capture any magical moment nature had to offer. Jack was on a hiking expedition through the Wyoming mountains, hoping to add to his collection of wildlife photography. For him, every step into the forest was like stepping into another world, where humans were merely guests and nature was the storyteller. His photographs aimed not only to capture the beauty of landscapes and creatures but also to convey profound stories of life and the extraordinary moments that occurred between the wild inhabitants of the earth. In the quiet stillness of the forest, even the faintest sound stood out. Jack listened closely to the crunch of leaves under his boots, the rustling wind through the tall pines, and occasionally, the distant calls of unseen animals. As Jack ventured deeper into the forest, he suddenly heard an unusual sound. It wasn't the melodious chirping of birds or the familiar murmuring of the stream, but a faint, weak cry echoing through the air. The sound seemed to come from a rocky cliff nearby, faint but compelling enough to catch his attention. The cry was filled with pain, like a call for help from a struggling creature. Curiosity and concern surged within Jack, urging him to investigate. The cliff from which the sound emanated was hidden behind a cluster of tall pines not far away. The path leading there was rugged and uneven, littered with rocks and undergrowth. Yet Jack pressed forward carefully, his eyes scanning ahead and his ears attuned to the increasingly distinct cry. It was the sound of a small animal, feeble and distressed. Jack's heart pounded as he realized that the creature might truly be in danger. When he finally reached the edge of the cliff, Jack stopped, peering down. He saw a sight that tugged at his heart. A young fawn, still very small, was trapped between two large boulders just below the cliff's edge. Its fragile body trembled, and its wide eyes were filled with fear. It seemed to have slipped while fleeing a predator and become wedged in the narrow gap, unable to free itself. Jack quickly assessed the situation. The descent to the trapped fawn was steep and slippery, posing a challenge. But he knew he couldn't leave the poor creature there, especially as the daylight grew stronger, potentially drawing predators to the area. With determination, Jack secured a rope around his waist and used his climbing gear to carefully make his way down. Each step was deliberate and measured, ensuring his safety while avoiding any movements that might startle the fawn. When he reached the fawn, Jack approached it gently. He made soft, soothing sounds, trying to calm the terrified animal and reassure it that he meant no harm. At first, the fawn struggled and kicked weakly, but it gradually calmed as Jack's presence exuded patience and care. With careful hands, Jack began to lift the heavy boulder pinning the fawn's leg. Sweat dripped from his brow as he worked tirelessly, his determination fueled by compassion. After several strenuous minutes, Jack finally managed to free the fawn from its rocky trap. The fawn, though still trembling and weak, slowly got to its feet. Jack stepped back, giving it space to recover. He observed that it wasn't seriously injured, save for a few minor scrapes on its legs. From his bag, Jack poured some water into his palm and offered it to the fawn. The young deer hesitated for a moment before drinking, its eyes glistening as if expressing gratitude. After some time, the fawn appeared to regain its strength. It began to move tentatively, turning its head one last time to look at Jack before bounding back into the forest, toward the golden rays of the rising sun filtering through the trees. Jack stood silently, watching its retreating figure, his heart filled with an indescribable warmth. He had not only captured the beauty of nature in his photographs but also become part of a story of survival in the wilderness. On his way back, Jack felt a deep sense of connection with the natural world. He realized that nature was more than just a source of artistic inspiration, it was a place where humans could learn to love, protect, and respect life. The images he captured that day were not just beautiful photographs but also profound memories that reminded him of his responsibility to the natural world. Jack Reynolds, as always, walked through the majestic wilderness of Wyoming with his trusty camera in hand. The early sunlight pierced through the canopy, illuminating the forest in golden hues, while the vibrant sounds of nature echoed all around. But this peaceful morning was soon interrupted by a sight that Jack couldn't ignore. In the distance, he heard a faint, desperate cry, unlike the usual symphony of nature. It was the cry of a distressed animal, helpless and afraid. Jack immediately stopped, straining his ears to pinpoint the direction of the sound. Within minutes, Jack found the source of the cry, a bear cub stranded on a precarious rock ledge. The location was perilous, with the ledge jutting out over a roaring river below. The bear cub, likely separated from its mother or fleeing from danger, had climbed out onto the ledge and now had no way back. Its small claws clung to the slippery surface of the rock, its wide, frightened eyes darting between the river below and its surroundings. Jack scanned the area and saw no sign of the mother bear nearby. However, he knew all too well the risks of rescuing a cub, as the mother bear could appear at any moment, turning a rescue attempt into a potentially life-threatening encounter. But seeing the tiny cub in such a dire situation, Jack couldn't turn away. He quickly removed his backpack, pulling out his climbing gear and rope, mentally preparing himself for one of the riskiest missions he had ever undertaken. Jack secured the rope around his waist, double-checking all his equipment with the precision of an experienced climber. He knew that even the slightest mistake could have devastating consequences. Yet, driven by determination and compassion, he began his descent. Each step was calculated and deliberate, his hands gripping the rough, uneven rock face as he slowly approached the stranded cub. As Jack descended further, the cub's cries grew louder, blending with the rushing sound of the river below. The bear cub noticed Jack's approach, initially panicking, but soon its gaze softened as if sensing the man's intentions. Jack spoke softly, using a calm and gentle tone to reassure the cub and keep it from panicking further. But the rescue was far from straightforward. Just as Jack was within reach of the cub, his foot slipped on a moss-covered rock. His body jerked violently, and for a heart-stopping moment, he lost his balance. The rope supporting him swayed precariously, and Jack clung desperately to the rock face, his heart pounding in his chest. Cold sweat trickled down his forehead as he fought to stabilize himself. Taking a deep breath, he regained his footing and carefully resumed his approach. When he reached the cub, Jack quickly assessed the situation. The ledge the cub was perched on was unstable and could collapse at any moment. He worked swiftly, wrapping a makeshift harness around the cub using his rope. The cub trembled but seemed to understand that Jack was there to help. With steady hands, Jack lifted the cub off the ledge, balancing its weight as he began the climb back up. After a tense and grueling effort, Jack finally brought the cub to safety on solid ground. He untied the rope and checked the cub for injuries, relieved to find only minor scrapes. The cub gazed up at Jack, its eyes glistening as if in gratitude. It took a few tentative steps away but didn't run, lingering near Jack as if unsure whether to stay or go. The moment of peace was short-lived. From deep within the forest, a powerful roar echoed, the unmistakable sound of a mother bear. Jack froze, turning to see the imposing figure of the mother bear emerging from the trees. Her powerful frame and piercing eyes made it clear that she was searching for her cub. Jack's pulse quickened, knowing he needed to leave immediately to avoid any misunderstanding. He slowly backed away, keeping his movements calm and deliberate while maintaining eye contact with the bear. The mother bear approached her cub, sniffing it carefully and ensuring it was unharmed. Once satisfied, she turned her gaze toward Jack. Her expression was cautious but lacked aggression, as if she understood that this man had helped her cub. After a moment, she nudged the cub gently, guiding it back into the forest. Jack watched them disappear into the trees, a mixture of relief and awe washing over him. He had faced danger, but he had also witnessed the raw power of maternal love and the delicate balance of nature. As Jack made his way back, his heart swelled with a deep sense of fulfillment. He had not only carried out a daring rescue but had also been part of an extraordinary moment in the wild. For Jack, it was not just another adventure but a profound reminder of courage, compassion, and the interconnectedness of all life. Jack Reynolds, after a perilous journey to rescue a bear cub trapped on a precarious cliff, finally managed to bring the little creature to safety. His heart was still pounding from the tense ordeal. The bear cub, now free, stood close by, its wide, glistening eyes fixed on him, as if expressing gratitude. But the moment of peace didn't last long. From deep within the forest, a low, resonating roar broke the silence, pulling Jack back to reality. He turned his head toward the sound, where the trees swayed as something large emerged from the shadows. It was the mother bear, emerging from the depths of the forest. The mother bear was both majestic and intimidating. Her thick fur caught the early morning sunlight, accentuating her powerful, commanding presence. Her sharp eyes scanned the area, clearly searching for her cub. Her large frame moved with a deliberate, slow grace, each step rustling the forest floor. Jack stood frozen, his body tense. He knew that facing a mother bear was one of the most dangerous situations anyone in the wild could encounter. His heart raced, the thudding in his chest loud and unrelenting. He took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. His mind raced with thoughts of what to do next. He knew that any wrong move could provoke the bear, making him the target of her fury. This situation required absolute calm and respect for the powerful creature before him. Jack remained motionless, resisting the urge to run or make any sudden movements. He kept his gaze averted from the bear's eyes, avoiding direct contact that could be perceived as a challenge. The mother bear came closer, and the cub quickly recognized her presence. It let out a small cry and stumbled toward her. The bear stopped as her cub reached her side. She bent down, sniffing her cub thoroughly, inspecting every inch of its tiny body to ensure it was unharmed. After a few moments, seemingly satisfied that her cub was safe, the mother bear lifted her head and turned her gaze toward Jack. That moment seemed to stretch into eternity. Jack felt the weight of her deep, Piercing stare, not filled with aggression or fear, but something else entirely. It was a look that seemed to convey understanding. As if the bear recognized that Jack was the one who had saved her cub. Her eyes, brimming with strength, also held a quiet gentleness. A silent acknowledgement of what he had done. Jack stood still, feeling an indescribable connection to the wild creature before him. The mother bear turned away, her demeanor no longer threatening. She gently nudged her cub, signaling it to follow. The cub hesitated for a moment, looking back at Jack with wide, curious eyes, as if trying to remember the face of its rescuer. Then, it followed its mother, their figures slowly disappearing into the shadows of the forest. The sound of rustling leaves lingered in the air as they vanished, leaving behind a profound silence. Jack remained rooted in place, as though his entire body had been frozen by the wonder of what had just occurred. He took a deep breath, trying to process the extraordinary encounter. The moment felt unlike anything he had ever experienced before. As a wildlife photographer, Jack had often come face to face with animals in their natural habitat. But never had he felt such a deep connection. It wasn't just an encounter, it was a profound understanding between man and nature. Jack's thoughts drifted to the raw power of instinct and maternal love. He realized that, whether human or animal, the bond between a parent and child was universal and unbreakable. The way the mother bear had searched for her cub, checked its safety, and then looked at him, all of it was a testament to the beauty and wonder of the natural world. Without words or complex actions, a single look was enough for Jack to feel gratitude and trust from the bear. Under the warm glow of the rising sun, Jack stood alone but far from lonely. He felt deeply connected to something greater. A story that transcended human existence and touched the very essence of life itself. For Jack, this wasn't just another day in the wilderness, it was a transformative experience that would stay with him forever. It reminded him of why he loved nature, not just for its beauty, but for the profound, invisible connections it offered. Jack packed up his gear, his eyes lingering on the forest where the mother bear and her cub had disappeared. A soft smile spread across his face, a smile of satisfaction and gratitude. He knew he would never forget this extraordinary moment, and it would become a cornerstone of the stories he would tell through his photographs. Turning back toward the trail, Jack walked away, the sunlight breaking through the canopy above, carrying with him a story only those who truly love the wild could ever understand. Jack Reynolds, after days of exploring the wild forests of Wyoming, had not only captured stunning photographs but also discovered a troubling issue. As he traversed different areas, he noticed unusual signs, rusty steel traps hidden in bushes, artificial trails created by humans, and even the distant sound of gunshots. These were unmistakable indicators of poachers operating in the region. These individuals weren't just hunting animals illegally, they posed a significant threat to the ecosystem itself. Determined not to stand by, Jack shifted his focus from photographing nature to a higher mission, collecting evidence to combat the poachers. He began using his camera and filming equipment to document the illegal activities he encountered. The traps, human footprints, and even images of injured animals were all meticulously captured. These images were not just proof but also a desperate call to protect the forest and its inhabitants. During this time, Jack reached out to a group of scientists and wildlife conservation organizations working near the area. Their work wasn't just about protecting animals but also studying the unique flora of the forest. One of their main projects involved searching for and preserving a rare plant species believed to have medicinal properties. This plant, with its unique compounds in its leaves and bark, was considered a potential breakthrough in modern medicine. However, pinpointing its exact location remained a mystery. One early morning, while Jack was continuing his work, an unexpected event occurred. He encountered the mother bear, the same bear whose cub he had once rescued. The bear showed no hostility, instead, it approached him slowly, its eyes full of a mysterious intent. Jack stood still, sensing that the animal hadn't come by chance. It stared at him for a moment before turning and walking away, glancing back frequently as if inviting him to follow. Trusting his instincts and the bear's unusual behavior, Jack decided to follow. The journey led Jack through dense forests, where sunlight barely penetrated the thick canopy. After several hours, the mother bear stopped in front of a large cave hidden deep within the mountains. Jack stepped inside and was awestruck to discover that this was no ordinary cave. Inside was a thriving area filled with rare plants, including the very species the scientists had been searching for. Its deep green leaves, glowing faintly in the gentle light streaming through cracks in the cave roof, gave the place an almost magical aura. Jack realized that this was a natural treasure, a sanctuary that needed to be protected at all costs. But Jack's joy was short-lived. Upon returning to inform the scientists, they learned that the poachers had also discovered the area. Leaks of information had led the poachers to plan an invasion to exploit the resources. Jack knew that immediate action was necessary to prevent this pristine sanctuary from being destroyed, along with its unique flora and fauna. Jack and the team of scientists quickly rallied support from the local community, people who shared a deep connection with the forest. They organized meetings, devised plans to safeguard the area, and mobilized tools to deter the invaders. The most surprising ally in this effort was the mother bear, along with other bears in the area. Their natural instinct to protect their territory and resources seemed to align with the humans' mission. The mother bear even appeared near the group's gatherings, as if to remind them of the urgency of their cause. When the poachers began encroaching on the area, a tense confrontation ensued. The forest's defenders, including Jack, the scientists, and the locals, employed various tactics to thwart the intruders. They set up temporary barricades, sent warning signals, and even used the bears to disrupt the poachers' plans. Every step the poachers took was monitored and countered in time. This battle was not just about protecting trees but about preserving the delicate balance of nature and the wildlife that depended on it. Ultimately, through the combined efforts of humans and animals, the poachers were forced to retreat. The forest was saved, and the cave area remained untouched, its secrets preserved. Jack stood atop a hill, looking out over the endless expanse of forest, his heart filled with emotion. The mother bear appeared one last time, standing at the edge of the woods, her gaze meeting Jack's as if to express her gratitude before vanishing into the dense foliage. That day, Jack felt not only pride in what he had accomplished but also a profound realization: nature was not just a source of inspiration but a responsibility. He vowed to continue this mission, to never stop fighting for the protection of the planet's most beautiful and wondrous treasures. When the poachers were finally defeated, the Wyoming forest returned to its natural tranquility. The rusted traps were removed, the artificial trails erased, and the wildlife thrived once more under the protection of its human allies. The local community, along with Jack Reynolds and the team of scientists, succeeded in safeguarding the area from destruction. This was not just a victory for nature but also a testament to the power of unity between humans and animals. The mother bear and her cub, symbols of resilience and maternal love, continued to live freely and safely in the forest. After the events, Jack felt his work wasn't over. He realized that beyond protecting the forest, he had a duty to share its story and the lessons it offered. With this in mind, Jack decided to establish a nature reserve near the area. The reserve would not only protect wildlife but also serve as an educational center to teach people about the importance of preserving nature. He wanted visitors to not just marvel at nature's beauty but to understand their responsibility to protect it. The reserve was built as a bridge between humans and nature. Jack organized tours where people could learn to identify wildlife, understand their role in the ecosystem, and, most importantly, discover how to coexist harmoniously with the environment. During each educational program, Jack always dedicated time to telling the story of the mother bear and her cub, about their courage and protective instincts, as well as the unique bond he had felt during those challenging days. He emphasized that nature wasn't just a physical world but a repository of profound lessons about love, patience, and empathy. Jack's story quickly spread, not just locally but across the United States. The photographs he had taken in the forest, especially those of the mother bear and her cub, were displayed in major exhibitions. Each image wasn't merely a work of art but a powerful reminder of nature's fragile beauty and the urgency to protect it. Jack became a beloved speaker, inspiring thousands with his tale. He spoke not only about the challenges but also about the values humans could learn when immersing themselves in the natural world. During a major seminar in New York, Jack said, "When I looked into the mother bear's eyes, I didn't just see the strength of nature. I saw understanding. A reminder that we, humans, are not separate from this world. We are part of it. And we have a responsibility for what happens around us." His words resonated deeply, awakening a passion for environmental protection and a desire for a deeper connection with nature in many listeners. Back in the Wyoming forest, Jack frequently visited the reserve and spent time at the forest's edge, where he had once encountered the mother bear and her cub. Each time he stood there, he felt as though they were still somewhere out there, hidden among the lush trees, watching him with the same gaze he could never forget. In those moments, Jack didn't feel alone. Instead, he felt a profound, invisible connection, an understanding that only nature could offer. The final image of the story is Jack standing at the forest's edge, his eyes gazing into the distance where the mother bear and her cub had once disappeared into the shadows. The evening sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating a scene both serene and magical. He stood silently, his heart full of emotion. Jack knew that the bond between him and the mother bear would endure forever. A reminder that humans and nature could coexist harmoniously if we learned to cherish and protect it. That day, as Jack walked away from the forest, he carried not just photographs or beautiful memories but also a profound responsibility, a responsibility to protect and share nature's beauty with future generations. He knew his journey didn't end here. Every step he took, every story he told, every photograph he captured was a call to action. A message that nature is a shared home that we are all responsible for safeguarding.